Hello, it's Ren Presents time. I'm your host, Ren, and today we continue with the House of Bloodstein, Mentralysis, Part 2, Chapter 6, Castle Blanchefort. As we saw last week, we were introduced to a new version of an old character. We were introduced to Ultra Sarah. Sarah, of course, is faceless, breastless, you name it, in a capsule on the Gold Coast of HOBM in the care of Rawl and his Hospitalers. However, in her sleeping state, Sarah is an Ultra, and she possesses many more skills than she has when she's awake, and she is a networking and all types of other things that having to do with networking. She is a very skilled at those. She was able to create herself a very complex holographic Fintron from scratch, and was able to join Kay in the V4 Venera ship as they make their way to Kana using the Mentralysis deck that's mounted in Lady Rothaba's ship. One thing a couple people have asked, and every so often you'll get some smartass who comes up to you at a show. He goes, well, how come Sarah and Lady Rothaba, whatever her name is, can get out of their capsule and they can make a nice hologram for them, but they can't do that for anyone else. And you say that Magistrate Kylos is about to go insane. Why don't they just make her a hologram? Well, that's a good question. And the answer to that is analysis. This book is called Mentralysis, and Mentralysis is a science. And in order for the Hospitalers to create a free-roaming hologram for a subject that's been robbed of their various parts and keep them sane, a great deal of analysis needs to be done, at least several months worth. Sarah is a special case because of her ultra status, but Rothaba of George, they had a long time to analyze her and create the proper holographic environment for her mind to enter, and so she wouldn't go stark raving mad. Everybody else, they've just arrived. They just were placed into these capsules. The Hospitalers lack sufficient data to make them a proper holographic environment. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. That is the reason it's not really said in the book. Perhaps it could be said I'm doing a Joe Rowling here, retconning my own work after the fact. No, but that was always in my head. It just never made it to the pages of the book. Charming as that might be. Sarah, using her skills to pay the bills, was able to hack into Castle Blanchefort's camera system, and she was able to rewind and saw the horrific events as the Jones came and hypnotized them all into a stupor. They captured pretty much everybody, including some staff members, and was going to frog march Kay out into the Grove and shoot him in the head after he signed over some papers so that Queen Gome could get access to some of the Blanchefort fortune. At least that's what they told him. There's a couple things here that Kay and everybody else has not figured, and that will come in later on. See if you can guess what it might be. There's something that Queen Gome is after, and it's probably not money. She's got plenty of that. Just let that percolate for a while. So, today we will be reading Part 2, Chapter 6, Castle Blanchefort. And as Sarah had seen that weird statue of a lady with goggles that they had previously seen in God's Temple on Xandar, and she sees this statue in her mystery library and is carrying a big book, they figure this person, assume she's a goddess of some sort because they encountered her in God's Temple, is out to do them a favor or do a deed for them, and who knows what she wants in return, but there she is. And they figure going to the banking commune at Terif Nor in the south of Kana probably isn't a good idea, so they reroute and head to Kay's home, to Castle Blanchefort, which is currently overrun by their enemies, the Jones, who are all in the service of Queen Gome. So let's see how this shakes out. Part 2, Chapter 6, Castle Blanchefort. They flew north on the rim of the Gaston Way and then veered east past Castle Blanchefort to the outer reaches of the Telmus Grove. Kay watched the sprawling red castle go by, a place he intended to spend his years with Sam and raise their children. It was a proud place, unconquered in centuries until now, invaded by a sect of Hospitallers, a very unexpected enemy. Laika, let's put down in the eastern wall of the grove. There's plenty of cover and good places to park the ship. From there, we'll cloak it ourselves and scout back through to the castle. Our first task is to get my weapons and then get to the mystery library. Laika steered to the east. At the eastern frontier of the Telmus Grove was a towering 1,000-foot wall going down into the cloudy valley below. Beyond were the great Vithland Mountains, a cornice brutal range of jagged peaks capped by towering Mount Vith, the tallest mountain on Kana. It was a hulking shadow only a few miles farther to the east. That mountain was once a Haitathe bastion, cloud-wreathed and full of dread, Kay said. Laika gave the great black cone of the mountain an impassive glance and brought the ship down near a small frozen lake. Kay helped Laika strap on her belt dangling with weapons. He took stock of her arsenal. She had 2 giant-sized longswords, both sporting a 5.5-foot-long blade, each weighing over 100 pounds. Haitathe swords, she said. She also had 4 lag automatic pistols that were so dirty and well used, it looked like she had run them through the mud once or twice. Haitathe pistols, she said. The pistols were regular sized. Though Laika was a giant, her hands were rather small and delicate for her stature, not much larger than Kay's own. With her loadout of 2 swords and 4 pistols, she should be well able to unleash chaos. I think first we should go to the site where I was nearly killed. Perhaps my weapons are there. Since I was under hypnosis and was no threat to the Jones, I would like to have my things back. I feel naked without them. Then we'll hit the castle and head to the mystery library. Laika wound her hair back up in short order and opened the hatch, allowing a blast of frigid northern air to howl in. Laika was bare-armed and bare-shouldered, wearing only a metal breastplate, armored pants, and leather boots, none of which were insulated to any degree. Kay was immune to the cold. But what about her? Will the cold be an issue for you, Laika? He asked. Why does Jarl-Khan keep asking such things? She asked as she stepped out of the hatch into the howling wind. Kay followed. Because I'm concerned for your well-being. I'm immune to the cold. Are you? Outside it was a gray day in the mountains. Laika shut the hatch and Kay cloaked it back into invisibility. She stared at the empty space where the ship once was and probed about with her hands. It's still there, just invisible, Kay said. She stood tall and breathed in. Laika, not comfortable, she announced impassively as the clouds of condensed vapor issued from her mouth like smoke from a chimney. You're not? Cold. You're cold? Will you be all right? Do you have a coat or a blanket? She didn't answer. Her arms and shoulders were livid with goose flesh. Unmindful and uncomplaining, she leaned back and had a good look at the wall. The wall was towering, rising up into the clouds. The wall also wasn't straight up and down. Instead, it bowed out like the rim of a bathtub. Why this wall here? She asked. Kay struggled with how he should respond. He decided to be honest, to keep out the Haitathe. Long ago, they roamed here in vast numbers and made war with us. He wondered how she would take the news. Wearing her usual frown, she seemed indifferent. The tribulations of the past, the conflict, the blood that had been shed, meant nothing to her. Sentimentality was not something Haitathe had in excess. This wall no barrier, she announced. She picked Kay up and set him on her bare shoulder. Laika quickly scaled the wall, her arms moving in spider-like unison, weapons clanking together as she climbed. Her arms also stretched like rubber when handholds were not within easy reach. About halfway up, She reached the most convex section of the wall and was climbing well past 45 degrees, her weapons dangling down past her hips like a set of kitchen knives. She couldn't place her feet. 5 of her arms were fastened to the stone. She tired with the labor, her breath coming out of her mouth in steamy puffs. "Let me help you," Kay said. "Laika, fine," she said. No, you're exhausting yourself. I'm very impressed how far you've gotten so far. Let me help you." He looked up and gauged the distance to the top of the wall. About 400 feet. He put his arms around Laika's neck. "I'm going to waft us up. Ready?" She reacted to his touch. "Jarlkhan warm," she said. Kay wafted to the top of the wall with a crash. The difference in temperature on the rim was marked. It was still cold, but much of the bitter edge was removed by underground hot springs that ran beneath the grove. "Warm here," Laika remarked. "Yes, it's much warmer. Is this temperature more comfortable for you?" "Laika comfortable." She nodded and gave Kay 2 quick slaps on the back. Blows meant to be affectionate, but which nearly put him on his knees. "Laika comfortable," she repeated as her goose flesh flattened out. She peered over the edge of the wall at the long drop. "Again, Jarlkhan moves with the wind," she said admiringly. Kay recovered from the blows. "All right, we're cloaked. We can see each other, and we may speak normally, but to anybody else, we are invisible and silent." Laika nodded again, gazed at her hands, and marveled. "Come, we go where Laika rescued Jarlkhan. Is it far?" "Not far." Kay stopped her. "Before we set off, I want to have a look around first." He lit his dark sight and focused ahead through the distance and dense trees, seeing everything. "I can see the castle. It's about 3 miles to the west. I see a few staff members rolling about, but not many. We normally have about 100 staff in the castle at any given time. Sarah must have gotten them out somehow. That was good work." "Sarah is full," Laika replied. "I don't see any Jones roaming about." "Good." Laika stood there and nodded. It was important to show her what he could do and not be shy about his gifts. She had to respect him, otherwise she might turn, though she had shown him nothing but loyalty so far. He was certain she was trustworthy. "The rest of the grove is pretty empty right now." He turned his sight to the clearing where the machine was located. Rothaba had told him the machine had been stolen by the Jones. Sure enough, there was a great ragged hole in the ground where the machine had once stood. He rolled his sight back. 2 days prior, the Jones had thundered in with a giant earth mover. They couldn't see the machine as it was cloaked in the Whisper's veil. However, they appeared to have a very good idea where it was located, as Sarah had told them where it was under hypnosis. Working blind, they simply scooped it up, Silvertech disguise and all, and hauled it away. Yet another thing stolen from Kay's family. "Let's go ahead and see the area where I was meant to be killed," he said. Laika waded off into the trees and Kay followed, dwarfed at her side. Rather ironic, he thought. The history of Castle Blanchefort was rife with wars and battles, sometimes with other Vith households, once or twice with the Xenons, and many times with the old Haitathe hordes hungry for Vith flesh. Now gone in the tamed, more civilized modern league. How many Haitathe, just like Laika, had fallen here, pierced by Vith weapons? How many had trudged off with Blanchefort prisoners and dead to throw onto their bonfires? How many dead Haitathe was Laika walking over at that very moment with every stride? Now he walked the grove side by side with Laika, a Haitathe, and one he was becoming fonder of by the day. One he had nearly made love to while half asleep. "You're pretty different when you're asleep," Sarah had said. A horn dog. They passed an old marking stone covered with fallen leaves. Kay stopped and brushed it off, seeing carvings on the face. "Laika, a moment please. I want to show you this." She stopped and stared down at the stone. The Blanchefort coat of arms was carved into the face in weathered relief. On the left-hand side of the shield was the profile of a 6-armed Haitathe. "See that, Laika?" Kay asked, pointing. "That is a Haitathe adorning our shield." Her expression was inscrutable. "Is that rampant?" "It is, yes. When I was a boy, I didn't think Haitathe really existed. I thought they were simply monsters from Vith mythology. Then my sight began working, and now I see past images of them all the time. Laika exists, she said. Yes, you do. This is probably the first time ever that a Vith and Haitathe have walked these passes as friends. You're the first. She stared at the marker and then shook her head. Jarokhan not friends with Laika. Why do you say that? Jarokhan did not mate with Laika on ship. Back to that again. No, I didn't. I'm married. I love my knee countess and am devoted to her. Wouldn't you think less of me if I proved untrustworthy? If I betrayed my knee countess when she needed me the most? But that doesn't mean I can't be fond of you as well. I have become very fond of you. She turned to him. Laika does not understand. What is fond? It means I like you. It means I enjoy your company and value your opinion. It means I am concerned for your well-being. Two people can be fond of each other, can care deeply about each other without being intimate. Laika thought about it and nodded. Come, this way. Are you square with that? She didn't answer. Come. They left the stone behind and moved farther into the trees and soon reached a clearing. Here is where Laika rescued Jarokhan. Here? Kay looked around. They were in a fairly remote part of the grove. Where did you come from? From the north. Laika parked ship there, many miles. Moved with caution, shadowing Jones. Laika picked Jarokhan up and ran back to ship. Ran? Who was out here with me? 2 Jones. What happened to them? Laika killed Jones, rescued Jarokhan, and ran to ship. I want my karg, Laika. Did I have it on me when they brought me out here? What is karg? It's a weapon, like a sword. It's silver and it glows. Laika laughed. Ah, toy weapon, yes, is here. Laika led Kay away a few paces and dug through the grass. There was Kay's karg, covered up by leaves. She picked it up and looked it over. She wasn't impressed. This too small. This karg is toy. Laika once again offered him one of her massive longswords. Thanks, but those are too big. This karg does just fine. I've slain many with it. Though that's not something I'm proud of. The battles Jarokhan has won do not please him. I'm proud of my home and my family and my commitment to my countess. I'm proud of my friends and of my kinship to them. I'm nostalgic about battles I've fought and the faces of those I've killed, and perhaps someday those experiences will help me better prepare my children for the world and what might face them. When I raise my karg, it's because I have to, not because I wish it. He took his karg back from her and savored its feel. He checked around in the leaves for his saddle and his poltava. Laika remembers all Haitathe has killed and is proud. Laika likes to fight. Laika would like to fight Jarokhan, sword against karg. It would make Laika proud. He wondered, did she mean play fight, sparring, that sort of thing? He didn't think Laika would be very good at pulling her punches or her sword cuts. There was still this wrestling match she wanted to have. Later, he said. Kay found his saddle in the grass and put it on, slinging his karg at his waist. Laika still eyed it with distrust. Where did the Jones fall? Laika stepped a few paces to the north. Here and here. Laika killed Jones with lags. Kay inspected the ground. No bodies. He ran his dark sight back, and there they were, in their white shirts and black cloaks, shot dead to the chest, hauled away by the Jones later on. He sighted around looking for his poltava, but did not see it. He wished he could reclaim it. His poltava had been a gift from his father. Let's head over to the castle and determine the situation there. We'll then follow Sarah's suggestion and enable the Bobby system. Laika stood. Laika does not like Sarah. Yeah, but we're gonna need her. He sighted ahead. I don't see anybody. The way is clear. Let's go. They stuck to the northern passes, avoiding the courtyards and cobbled paths, following the cold waters of Blanchefort Run as it veered south to the castle proper. An elaborate stone bridge came into view. That's the Dragon Tooth Bridge, Kay told Laika. We're here. As they watched, a staff member from the kitchens wearing a light shawl came out and walked across the bridge. Laika instinctively made to hide, but Kay stopped her. It's all right. She can't see or hear us. With my gifts, we've nothing to fear. The girl walked right past and continued down the path. Kay sighted her as she walked. She's packing a knife in her sash. Just there, Kay pointed, and the knife appears to be smeared with a thick purplish resin. Laika lifted her chin and sniffed the air. Malik, she said. Laika knows smell. The Hospitaller showed Laika. All right then, now we know what we're up against. The Jones no doubt have the staff hypnotized to attack us with Malik knives. Laika, I don't want any of our staff hurt. They are good, hard-working people, and they are innocent in this matter. And if staff attack Jarl Khan and Laika? She asked. Then we subdue. We restrain. We put them safely out of commission. I repeat, these people are not to be hurt in any way. If we are inconvenienced in the process of subduing them, then so be it. I am their lord, and it is my responsibility to protect them. They entered the castle and moved through the familiar, lofty passages. Laika admired the stonework. Kay had to fight the urge to offer her a guided tour. That could come later. We're going to go down into the lower levels. I think I remember the equipment Sarah mentioned. It's in the southern wing, 2 levels down, but it's a little tight to get to. Can you manage? Laika comfortable in small places. Kay came to a pillar with a hidden doorway concealed in the stone. Using his sight, he located the cleverly hidden lever and pulled the door open, revealing a tight spiral staircase leading down. My mother, who was a first-class castle explorer, showed me this passage once. It'll take us down 2 sublevels near the Bobby equipment. He considered the passage tight, barely wide enough for him to take at an angle because his shoulders were too broad to fit. He considered Laika hovering over him at least twice as wide in the shoulders as he was. She had got along with ease in the tiny cottage on HOBM, but this was a good tight squeeze, possibly a rating of 3 or 4 stones out of 5 on his mother's scale for determining the difficulty of squeezes in the castle. He didn't think there was any way Laika could fit. Kay squeezed in and went down the gritty stairs. Before he knew it, there was Laika squeezing in after him, like a rubber doll with only her armor occasionally catching on the stone walls. In fact, she seemed even more fluid and at ease going down the cramped stairwell than he was. Kay got to the bottom. It was a small maintenance level, about 3 feet high. Crawling on his hands and knees, he moved south, Laika slithering behind him. He got to a dead end that was barely large enough for him to ball up into the fetal position and change direction, just like his mother taught him when in a confined space. Patience was needed. He saw a side passage. That's where he needed to go. He inched his way into position, slow and steady. And then Laika plowed in, filling the space solid with her massiveness. Unable to breathe, Kay wafted out of the passage and scolded her for being too eager and continued on. Ahead was a junction filled with old dusty equipment. A series of black boxes were bolted to the wall. They sprouted thick cabling in several directions, ending in a confusion of metal pins, blossoming with even more untidy wires. I think this is the old Bobby system. It's a primitive sort of comm. You have a handset and a receiver, and you can hear a person talk on the other end. My great-grandfather Maserfield put it in. Hasn't been used in years, except when we used to play with it as kids. Kay looked the equipment over. It seemed dead and inert. Laika, help me look for a way to power this up. Laika rolled over onto her back and probed the boxes with her hands. Here. Switch behind unit. Kay saw it. That's right, I remember now. I think Sarah had a stick around here somewhere that we used to turn the system on. It's too tight back there to reach with our hands. No need stick. Laika removed a gauntlet from one of her arms and reached into the tiny space behind the boxes, her bare arm flattening out. She found the switch, flipped it, and the ancient Bobby system thrummed to primitive but reliable life. What now? She asked, placing the gauntlet back around her wrist. Now we find a Bobby box. Kay searched around and found one nearby. It was just a plain metal box with a spring-loaded door. Inside was a small Redel receiver painted olive green and a dial pad, a rusty can of red Casol, a relic of their childhood adventures and a favorite of Sarah's, lay crushed up inside the box. Kay removed the can and picked up the receiver, untangling wires. Laika, what was the code Sarah gave us? Alpha, 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 November, Bravo 47Z, 8999, Alpha, Alpha, she repeated back without a hitch. Kay marveled at Laika's infallible memory as he punched in the code. He heard tones sound through the receiver. "What we wait for?" Laika asked on her knees. "I'm not certain," Kay replied. He heard tones for a few seconds more. Then he put the receiver back in its box. "Well, I think..." Kay opened the box and pulled the receiver back out.
"Hi, Kay,"
came Sarah's scratchy, distant-sounding voice.
"It's me. Great job getting the Bobby going. Now I'm tapped in. Ha! I told you I'm badass now."
"Great job with the staff, Sarah. The castle's near empty. How did you manage it?"
"How? I'll tell you how. I sent a note to the head of staff thanking everyone for their hard work and offered them a complimentary trip to Bern on the Hospitaler's dime. You should have seen it. They went for it like pigeons to bread. I even booked a transport to take them to Bern, all on the Hospitaler's expense. How's that for a laugh? I watched them stream out of the castle in droves, carrying suitcases and suntan lotion. Most of them are gone."
"Good. How's Sam?" Kay asked.
"The same. She's fine for now, wandering around the facsimile of the castle, getting ready to have a fight."
"A fight?"
"Yeah, I punched up a little RDP subroutine, something to keep her busy and entertained. Remember that weird little Monoma girl Inez married?"
"Lady Telerin, the friend of my parents, the one with the flight jacket?"
"Yep, that's her. She challenged me to a fight, and I remember hearing she wanted to challenge Sam as well. The dead man and all, we never got to fight. Maybe next time. So right now, I've got Sam and Inez's wife getting ready to duke it out behind the castle. You know what? Initially, I had cooked up this grand setting where Sam and number 6 were going to settle their differences once and for all. It was going to be an awesome brawl. But I thought that might be a little too intense, so I switched it. Our good friend Raul had Sam up in your reading room sewing a pillow. How boring is that?"
"Raul told me about your status as an Ultra and that he was going to allow you low-level access to their systems in order to observe you."
"Oh, allowed me, did he? I tell you, me and this Raul guy are going to have words when this is all said and done."
"I'd leave him alone if I were you, and by the by, I think I'd feel better knowing Sam was safe and sound working on her pillow rather than going off fighting either number 6 or with Lady Telerin. You know Sam doesn't like number 6.
"Oh, gods, Kay, really? You'd rather Sam spend all her time sewing rather than having a satisfying knockdown drag-out with a woman she absolutely hates? Would you rather have a warrior at your side or a seamstress? Oh, creation, don't answer that. I don't want to know. Anyway, the Telerin fight in the back of the castle RDP program is running, and I'm not going to change it. Neither you nor Raul can do anything about it at this point. Once Sam's beaten the poop out of Telerin to my liking, I've got her going up against a pirate ship I dreamed up. Isn't that cool? She's not going to want to wake up from that."
Sure, thank you, Sarah. What about Philip and Thomasina?"
"Still haven't located the Goshawk. Don't worry about them. It's damn Kai that's the problem."
"How is she?"
"Not good. It's starting to dawn on her that she's trapped in a nightmare and she's fighting against it. I'm trying to keep her busy with cool stuff, but you know Kai, always a pain in the butt. The Hospitalers wanted to shut her down. They think her theta wave has gone into an insanity curve, and they say they can't fix that. They say she's going to wake up a blabbering idiot."
"Do not let them terminate Kai's treatment," Kay said, alarmed.
"Don't worry, I won't. I've taken extreme measures. If they work, Kai will be okay."
"Then we've no time to lose. It appears the Jones have hypnotized the remaining staff in the castle. We're under cloak and haven't been detected yet."
Okay, hey," Sarah said, "before you cut the line, you haven't seen King flying around, have you?"
Kay thought a moment. "No, I haven't. You're probably correct. He seems to be gone."
"That really sucks. We need him."
"That's a shame, it really is. I like King. He had a wise soul."
"You could use King's firepower right now, and that's for sure. I'll call up Mother and see if she's got any more Kings stashed somewhere. In the meantime, Get on up to the mystery library as quickly as you can. Oh, I need to tell you that Gome, the lady wearing Sam's face, is trying to withdraw a fortune in Blanchefort money. We're making it hard on her. Listen to me talk. There are several members of the SBL and Rothabus cult at Tariff Nor, and they're busy moving the money around so she can't get to it. The problem is, she's got a whole bunch of accountants and bankers from the Jones on her side working for her, so it's sort of a toss-up at the moment. They're really going at it right now, from their desks in front of their terminals anyhow.
Thanks, Sarah. Do what you can for Kai. We're on our way to investigate the mystery library. We'll be in touch. Laika pulled the receiver from his hand and spoke into it. Hello, Sarah, she said in a purring sort of voice. Laika is looking forward to seeing Sarah in person. Laika wishes to have a nice chat. Jarl-Khan and Laika shall put Sarah back together, only to have Laika take Sarah apart again. Kay heard the tinny stirrings of Sarah's voice piping over the receiver.
Yeah, bring it on, you cow, you...
Laika replaced the receiver in the box. I'd really appreciate it if you didn't fight with Sarah, he said. Sarah annoys Laika. Laika will prove to Jarl-Khan that Laika can fight by beating Sarah into pulp. You don't have anything to prove to me. Laika didn't respond. They made their way out of the tight confines of the sublevel and went to Sarah's Zyodal Tower in the central section of the castle. The mystery library was on the 50th floor. The ground level was open. To Kay's surprise, there was somebody sitting in the foyer drinking a cup of tea. It was a young man wearing a loose white shirt with a large unbuttoned collar and a pair of black pants. A large black cloak was folded neatly on a nearby couch. He had out several books from the Blanchefort library, all pertaining to demonology. Jones, Laika said, her hands going to her weapons. So, Kay thought, here is his first up-close look at a member of the Jones. Hospitallers from Baz. Healers. People in the service of the enemy. The fellow seemed decent enough. He looked like he was ready for an evening out on the town, though he sat quietly reading. A girl wearing the usual pinstripe blue uniform of the house staff came in, bearing a tray of cookies. An apron was tied over top of her uniform. Hank, I saw the demon again, she said. Demon? Kay wondered. What demon? Where? Hank replied. In the north corridor, I could see its eyes. They scared me. Thank you. Don't be scared. Keep me updated. We've made you some cookies, she said in a cheerful voice. Would you like some? Hank turned from his books and smiled. Thank you. Yes, I would. Christine, is that your name? She blushed. Yes. Hank took one and ate it. They're very good. Christine fidgeted. She appeared troubled. Is there something on your mind? Hank asked. I picked a good knife from the butcher's block. Do I really have to cut Lord Blanchefort with it? He's such a nice young man. I've always found him so handsome. Hank spoke in a soothing voice. It's for his own safety. We'll take good care of him. You'll see. Christine listened to his hypnotic voice and seemed convinced. All right, then. I'll make sure if I see him, I'll get him in the arm. That's very good. I'm certain he'll appreciate that. He returned to his book, and Christine walked out. Laika snarled as she passed. Shall Laika kill Jones? She asked. No, Kay said. Watch this. He lit his dark side and zoomed in on Christine as she walked away. There was the knife, sticking lazily out of her sash. A trained assassin she certainly was not. As Laika watched, he reached out and the knife from her sash appeared in his hand. Not blinking, not taking his gaze off of it, he held it up. I can use my gift of sight to interact with objects near or far, past, present, or future. The only catch is I have to concentrate on the object. If I blink or look away, even for a moment, the object falls back to where it came from. I perfected the process to a maximum of 2 minutes. I want to test the efficacy of this malak. Sure enough, the blade of the small kitchen knife Christine had selected was smeared with a purplish resin covered in lint from her cotton sash. Without wasting another second, Kay stepped towards Hank and gave him a swipe across the shoulder, drawing a bit of blood. Hank reacted, stood up, and then quickly fainted, dropping to the floor, face first in a tangle. Kay wiped the blood and resin off the blade using Hank's shirt as a cloth, and then blinked his eyes. The knife vanished from his grasp into the unaware Christine's sash where it had come from. Laika rolled Hank over and tested his pulse. Heartbeat, slow, steady, good Malik. Yep, that's a fast actor, all right. We need something to bind his hands, and we have no idea how long this Malik is set for. Laika found a tabletop iron lamp and effortlessly bent it around his hands. Make sure it's snug, but not so tight as to cut off his circulation. She molded the metal with her powerful hands. Zhao Khan is very concerned for enemies. Aren't I, though? Alright, excellent work. I'm going to take him to a place I know he'll have difficulty escaping from. Kay approached Hank and put his arms around him. I'll be right back. Just stay here a moment. With that, Kay wafted away, down into the darkened interior of the chapel of Countess Furcandia, the place he had first met Sam years ago. It was dark in there and impossible to get out without crawling through very tight passes. As Hank was a Jones, and probably from Baz, he shouldn't have the gift of waft, so he would be stuck in there. He laid him out on a pew and wafted back to Laika. That takes care of our boy Hank. Now let's get up on the 50th floor. And with that, we conclude Part 2, Chapter 6, Castle Blanchefort. So, Kay and Laika return. We learn a little bit of the sordid history of the Blancheforts and the Haitathe in days of yore, when the Haitathe hordes roamed the north of Kana in great numbers and sought the Vith to consume their flesh, for they had a taste for it. Kay tells Laika, that a Vith and a Haitathe have never walked these passes as friends, and Laika is a little salty from him not making love to her the night before, and tells him we're not friends, and then he tries to allay her fears, says, we are friends, I'm very fond of you, but that doesn't mean we're gonna get busy, but that means I value your presence, your input, your opinion, and your well-being. That seemed to get through to her. They find out that Sarah had gotten most of the staff out of the castle, which was good work, but a few remain, and those that do remain have been hypnotized to attack and subdue Kay should they see him. They tested out this Malik on the Jones that was sitting there on the ground floor, and it knocked him out pretty fast. They hide him in the chapel of Countess Furcandia. Just so you know, we never see this Hank guy again. I just sort of left him there in the dark. I assume at some point he was rescued or he escaped, but if he did escape, then he drifted back into the machinery of the Jones back on Baz and is never heard or seen from again. I just sort of left him there. Anyhow, when you dabble with Queen Gome and become an enemy of the Blancheforts, you get what's coming to you. So, yeah. So, we are here at Castle Blanchefort, and in talking to Christine, Hank learns that there's some sort of creepy demon haunting the castle with glowing eyes. I wonder what that is. I wonder what that could be. We will find out later. And next week, we will continue Part 2, Chapter 7, The Mystery Library, as we get into the meat of this quest here at Castle Blanchefort and see what awaits us in the Mystery Library and what's up with these Jones and his staff, and see where this quest takes us. As I mentioned in the pre-matter before we started reading, that there was a bit of a I wouldn't call it a plot hole, just a bit of inconsistency where these people are stuck in these capsules with no face, and Magistrate Kylos is suffering, and her suffering is part of the plot where they need to get them out of these capsules quick. But as we see with Rothiba and Sarah, these holograms that they're walking around in seem to work just fine. I mean, with it, as long as you have a holographic emitter somewhere nearby, you can look like yourself, you can feel like yourself, they can hear, see, talk, they can do everything. They feel absolutely real with all these Fenducers. Doesn't seem like a bad deal. I mean, it could be worse. So, I had to come up with a reason why they could do that for Sarah and Rothiba, but not for the rest of them, so it comes down to analysis. They have to gather data on these various subjects and create an optimal environment for their minds in these holograms. Otherwise, they would not accept it, they would reject it. It would probably be worse off than they were in a dream. So that was my story. I'm sticking to it. It works just fine. Anywho, next week, Chapter 7, The Mystery Library, and we continue with this quest for Queen Gome. Until then, this is Ren Presents. I am your host, Ren. Peace out.